Y'all do well, y'all do good, learn well, be educated and everything, that sort of thing. Give us some wisdom.
I don't know any right now.
Come on. You have a lot of wisdom in your head. What are you doing to me?
Be smart. Act smart. That's all.
Okay. Thank you, Mom. Love you. Love you. Give us a hug. Give me a hug. Show me a hug. Give it. Come on, both arms.
Okay, let me go.
Oh. Wait a minute. Turn me loose once.
I'm thirsty.
Come on. Just say it once. Turn me loose.
Turn me loose like you.
You're supposed to say turn me loose, you silly goose.
Turn me loose, you silly goose.
You used to do that more flirtingly.
By this point, I assume all of you know who Chris Chan is. Everybody knows the Christery, everything that has gone on with Chris over the past couple years. If you don't know, and this clip preceding this is completely foreign to you, well, essentially, Chris Chan was one of the original internet lolcows, and over time, he became more mentally deranged, and his father died. He lived alone with his mother, and basically, he started to get some Freudian interest in his mother, and he slipped. Slip is probably the wrong term to say. He consciously did things to his mother that led him to be arrested for incest crimes in Virginia. So essentially, he got arrested. This was a whole big news. I'm sure anybody who's watching this is aware, but Chris Chan essentially got arrested. He was in jail for about 2 years or so, and within the past 6 months or so was released and has been out of jail since then. And there have been some developments coming from this. And essentially, one of the bigger things leading up to this was everybody was sort of trying to figure out exactly what the stipulations of Chris Chan being out of jail were. You know, nobody knew if there was like a court order for him to stay away from Barb, stay away from the internet, all that. Well, slowly and progressively, we begin to see Chris Chan actually interacting online and going to some public events like card games and stuff like that. And we actually have seen that he is starting to actually use his Twitter account again. And, you know, I'm not the biggest Christorian in the entire world. I'm sure there's plenty of things that I would get wrong if I tried to retell them. But as Chris's mental decline increased, he essentially made at least one other Twitter account of Mewtwo, his wife or husband or whatever, and he would communicate back and forth about what was going on in the alternate dimensions of the universe. And so now we actually have evidence that he has been using his Twitter account. He hasn't posted anything, but he has been liking things on his Twitter account. We also recently saw that he was on Pokemon Go and was actually playing that, and he was always obsessed with Pokemon Go. I mean, he's obsessed with Sonic, he is obsessed with Pokemon as well, and so it's quite clear that he might have some sort of stipulations that say he can't be using it, but it's not preventing him from doing it. But we don't really know what the grounds are to prevent him from following through with getting on the internet once again. But the biggest development, and what this video is titled after, is actually Chris Chan had his court case dismissed with this entire situation with Barb. So there's a lot of discussion going on about why this would happen, how this could happen, X, Y, and Z. So when Chris Chan was arrested, he was arrested for the incest charges. He was not arrested for any aping allegations or anything more severe than that. And I believe Barb was tested. I mean, she's clearly in mental decline, and it's quite obvious from this following clip that goes through her basically being unable to string any sentences together.
Talk what's on your mind.
I'm resting.
And what are you doing with yourself?
I'm entertaining myself.
What do you like to eat?
I like to eat fish and chicken.
Do you have any favorite fruits?
You bananas.
You enjoy those bananas?
Yes.
And what do you like to drink?
I like to drink chocolate milkshake.
And what kind of milkshakes are these?
These are
Meal replacement.
delicious.
They're meal replacement shakes. So, you want to give some kind supportive words to everybody, like, I don't know.
It's quite clear that she's suffering from some sort of dementia or memory loss or something of the sorts. I'm sure we don't have anything concrete proof, but you can tell just by her interactions with Kris Chen in the final years leading up to this moment that there was something off with her. Either way, it was released that the Virginia courts had dismissed this case, and I think there's a lot of reasons why this could have happened, and I think the most obvious one would be the fact that how are they going to prove that this situation happened if it wasn't a reoccurring instance? And it's a gray line when it becomes consensual, incestual acts, if that makes any sense. So if it was assault that he did, they would have proof and they could charge him for it. But between two grown adults and this being his first real, conviction of this type, he's been arrested for petty assault in the past, misdemeanors, and so he already has a track record. So there's a chance that there could have been, but the amount of evidence needed to actually convict him would be far too much to be able to have anything actually follow through. I'm sure the way that the courts viewed this was the 2 years that he served in jail was sufficient enough in their eyes without having further proof of a conviction to continue to keep him in jail or reprimand him or whatever. And once again, we don't really know the stipulations of him being bonded out. We don't know if, the court said he couldn't do whatever. He had to is there a restraining order from Barb on Kris? Who really knows, because obviously Barb cannot take care of herself. She is probably in slight danger from Kris Chan. I mean, we don't really know what his day-to-day actions are like, if he's trying to interact with Barb again, if he's trying to go out there and see what she's up to. We don't know the full extent of everything, but I do think it's quite disappointing because based off of that introductory clip that's quite famous relating to this, Kris has talked multiple times about him being sexually interested in his mother, flirtatious with his mother, and it's clear that there was some sort of coercion going on between Kris and his mom, with the whole other troll that basically got all this information out of Kris. He basically talks about how initially when these actions were starting, she was confused by it, but she warmed up to it, and it's really grotesque to think about, but it's one of those things, there are people on Reddit and whatever talking about how he should have been thrown away forever and locked away without the key. And while personally I agree with that, because I think based off of all the information that Kris has presented to the world, there's a strong indication that something malicious went on here. But in the eyes of the court, it's too hard to prove. And that's the unfortunate situation that goes on with some of these court cases like this. And some other comments that some people talked about on Reddit, it's still a relatively fresh situation going on, but it's so hard to be able to find a burden of proof in a felony situation like this. And it's sad. It truly is just sad at this point. And I do think that people have to separate him physically being in jail from a crime actually happening, because it's something similar to when O.J. Simpson didn't go to jail. The vast majority of people in the country believe that he actually did it, but they couldn't convict him for it. But he still has to live with that tarnishment on him. I think at this point Kris Chan should basically be toxic Like, nobody should try and interact with him. He should basically be off limits for the most part. I don't really have issues with people documenting him from a distance or anything like that, but for the most part, I feel like the punishment should be no attention, no support, nothing like that from this point moving forward. And, you know, it's just a shame. It's a shame. I think we all wish deep down that there would be some sort of justice for Barb. It doesn't appear like that's going to be the truth, but who knows? Court cases get reopened all the time, and I think it was probably just becoming a burden on the state of Virginia to figure out what they wanted to do with him. So either way, that's just like a quick synopsis of this big event that is going on. I'm sure some people will say it's not, you know, I'm not an expert on Christery, so other people will probably be able to fill in some blanks that I'm unable to, but I thought I would just have a quick update out there. I don't talk about Chris a whole lot. I sort of avoid the situation. There's too much to get into, but I thought this was a big one. Either way, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Until next time, peace.
Hey everybody, it's snowing here in 1218. Look,
What's the
to
weather
Virginia. Why did you interrupt my video, Barbara? There's your joke. Have a good day.